Hello, welcome to today's Tech Wednesday event dedicated to SpamTitan solution. My name is Anna Łyczak and I'm product manager for SpamTitan. And we also have here Maciej Twardy, our technical director, who will present second technical part of today's webinar. But first, let's start with a few company and product details. The company was founded in 1999 as Copper-Faster Technologies. At first, they were a hardware manufacturer, but in 2002, they finished hardware production and switched to software. In 2015, the company had rebranded and adopted the name of Titan HQ. The company's mission is to deliver advanced security solutions for business emails, web, and content filtering to protect enterprise resources from outside threats. Currently, Titan HQ software is used by over 6,500 customers in 129 countries. So what exactly is SpamTitan? It is advanced anti-spam gateway, a complete set of software with operating system, which is FreeBSD. Solution is were tested among a wide range of customers around the world, as well as the ESP market, mainly in the US. SpamTitan protects businesses from threats by managing email flow, analyzing employee messages, blocking spam, viruses, and malware. Implementing and managing this solution is extremely easy. SpamTitan Gateway is a software appliance solution. It can be installed on a device or run in virtual environment. We have ISO file, which is a ready-made software file that can run directly on your hardware. Even if you don't have an operating system, SpamTitan comes with its own operating system, FreeBSD. For a virtual platform, we're receiving file with controllers. Which solutions or option will be chosen depends on the client's requirements and business environment. The functionality, operating system, and support costs for both gateway options are identical. Licensing is based on active email accounts. It is based on average usage of the last 5 days. The solution is scalable. You can expand at any time to meet your organization's needs. For better performance and better traffic distribution or backup, you have the option to buy a cluster. And cluster means 5,000 boxes for one unit, and if you have more, you will have to add more units. Key features of SpamTitan. Well, SpamTitan filters corporate email messages, ensuring that spam doesn't hit the inboxes of our employees. The solution can boast proven efficiency tests with a very low level of false positives. Spam detection is based on multi-level analysis, including creating and updating blacklists, RBLs. You can add several RBLs. You can also create a list of web pages containing unsolicited email messages. You also have base analysis, analysis of keywords, headlines, and content of emails, as well as customized evaluation algorithms. SpamTitan is based on 2 independent built-in antivirus engines, which is Kaspersky Lab and Clam AV, which provide double scanning of incoming and outgoing emails, which allows blocking of viruses and malware content in emails. We also have very easy installation. You just have to add domain and redirect MX and upload the license. Both installation and configuration take place within minutes. Key condition for deployment and testing is the ability to redirect the mail server MX addresses to the SpamTitan server. What else do we have in SpamTitan? A key feature is also the unlimited number of domains and also administration of those domain groups. It also cooperates with many mail servers. Of course, we have an exchange here. In addition to Exchange, the corresponding files can be also integrated with external applications using APA. We also have administrator and user quarantine. We also have outgoing mail scanning so that we can protect the reputation of the mail server IP address. And also we have assured business continuity. In case of mail server crash, clean emails will be archived up to 2 weeks. We also have web console with few language options, as well as support directly from the console. So basically, using SpamTitans greatly reduces the time that administrators and users spend on administrating of and managing of spam. So this will be it from my part, and now Macia will take care of a technical presentation. I will just add that if you have any questions, you can put them in a chat window. And also one more thing, we really encourage you to download a trial version from our vendor's site. You can go to www.titanhq.com, and there is an option to download the trial. It will be available for 30 days, so you can check the solution and test it in your own environment. So this is it from my side, and right now, Macie's part. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the second part of our today's webinar. My name is Maciej Twardy and I am Technical Director at Bakotech. Today I'm going to show you main functionalities of the SpamTitan, high effective, easy to use and easy to deploy mail filtering security suite. Let's start with a short introduction to the SpamTitan deployment scenarios and hardware requirements. As Anna mentioned before, SpamTitan can be installed as a cloud service or on-premise as a gateway. Today we will focus on the last one scenario. As you can see on the screen, SpamTitan Gateway is typically installed on a server in the network between your firewall or a border router and the mail server. This requires, of course, a rule change to your firewall or router to redirect incoming mails on SMTP port number 25 to the IP address of the SpamTitan server. There is also the option of the cluster, so you can deploy SpamTitan as a single gateway appliance or as a multi-node cluster. The second variant provides scalability, redundancy and load share, and of course it comes with centralized management, centralized reporting, and can be deployed across multiple locations. SpamTitan Gateway can be deployed as an ISO image or in a virtual environment. Both these options have identical functionality and can be downloaded, installed and configured quickly and simply. There is also a trial version available on the SpamTitan webpage, so you can test it at any time you want. SpamTitan ISO, this is very important information, contains complete operating system and software suite image. When it installed on a server, it clears an existing operating system, replacing it with its own. So the result is dedicated anti-spam appliance. If you choose virtual option, it also includes all necessary components to run on a hypervisor. Let's say a few words about hardware requirements. SpamTitan combines a hardened FreeBSD operating system and an assortment of additional software and services to filter incoming emails. FreeBSD operating system reduces hardware requirements to a very low level. For example, if it's used in an environment with up to 500 users, SpamTitan demands only Pentium 4 processor with 1 GB of RAM memory, 1 NIC card and at least 40 GB of hard disk space. Installation process is very simple. In the first, let's say, console part, you need to specify keyboard mapping, the server host name, network card configuration and the time zone. After copying all of the necessary files, rest of the configuration process is done by the SpamTitan's web console. So let's see now how it looks like. SpamTitan console enables you to manage and monitor the entire system using a simple web-based interface. So once you log into the appliance, the first thing you'll see is the dashboard, which gives you some basic information on how the product is performing. You can inspect, for example, system overview with statistics about hardware platform, CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk space usage. You can check also antivirus scanner status, mail queues, scan summary details, total emails that came through, what was spam, what was clean, what was viruses, etc. But I think the most important on this page is the support section, which allows you to establish secure connection to the SpamTitan support engineering team. In case of any technical problem, just click connect button and this will open a 5-digit secure port number. Then you can email into the help desk at spamtitan.com along with your port number and a brief description of the issue. This allows support team to log on into the machine and fix remotely any problems you might have. Moving on to the next step of configuration, you should load the appropriate license key onto the product. Without a valid license, access to the web interface to spam, virus and system updates will be restricted. You can load license in the System Setup, Licensing tab. And once the license is loaded, as you can see on the screen, detailed information about it show up here, such as number of users, expiration date, and the license usage. Note that the license usage is based on a 5-day rolling average of all clean mails that passes through the appliance. Next, we need to install SpamTitan on the network. We do so by a few simple steps. During installation, you need to provide the IP address and subnet mask of the SpamTitan server. Of course, you can modify these values if you want in the System Setup Network IP Configuration tab. You need to provide also the default route, which is typically the IP address of your router or firewall. Second step is to fill up the primary domain name of the server, and finally provide an address of DNS server or servers to communicate with. Once these settings are configured, SpamTitan is technically up and running on the network. Of course, there are some additional network configuration elements that we can set up. It depends on infrastructure needs. For example, you can configure HTTP proxy, static routes, port forwarding, alias IP addresses, as well as IPv6 configuration. In the system setup, you can also change some additional basic settings of the appliance. For example, you can configure time zone, check for system updates, you can shut down, restore the appliance, and you can define rate control policies, which allows you to set up a quotas, rate limits for message count or cumulative message size in some defined period of time. So once we set up SpamTitan to operate on the network, we then need to tell it for which domain to scan an email and where to send that email to. And we can do this in Mail Relay tab. This is where you can add your domain. All you need to do is just to click Add button, type your domain name, the IP address and port number of the destination mail server, and if you wish to do so, implement recipient verification, which protecting you against dictionary attacks. You can use several methods to perform recipient verification depending on your environment. If your mail server supports recipient verification, you should select dynamic recipient verification. Now what it does, simply when an email comes into appliance, SpamTitan will check it against your mail server to see if it's a valid recipient or not. If it is, it sends it through. If not, it's rejected. SpamTitan provides also alternative methods of recipient verification, such as LDAP, list-based verification, and regular expression. You can also specify whether real-time black hole lists checks and sender policy framework checks and gray listing should be done for this particular domain. The real-time black hole list feature is used to check external databases for non-spammer hosts or relays. It's very recommended to turn on RBL because it takes about 60–70% of spam away before even it hits the SpamTitan server. A sender policy framework checks allows the owner of domain to use a special DNS records to specify which machines are authorized to transmit email for that domain. And if this option is turned on, SpamTitan can check these DNS records to make sure that email comes from location that the domain authorizes. Let me skip gray listing now. I'll tell a little bit more about it later. So now the product is up and running on your network and set up to scan and forward emails to your mail server. Now, what is important, we can add multiple domains to SpamTitan to multiple destination server, simply repeating all of presented steps. Of course, you can configure some additional settings to tune up the appliance for your needs. For example, you can define RBL server list and the moment of RBL's check after or before recipient verification. You can also define a wide-listed IP addresses table, and this is the list of IP addresses and networks that bypass spam scoring tests. That means all spam, virus, band attachment, RBL and SPF checks. Or you can set the blacklisted IP addresses table. This is the list of IP addresses that are rejected during the initial SMTP protocol handshake before receiving any of message body. SpamTitan allows to define IP addresses and networks that may bypass sender policy framework checks by simply adding them to SPF exemption list, as well as to specify blacklisted top-level domains. These are sender domains that are rejected during the initial SMTP connection. What is very important, SpamTitan can filter both inbound and outbound emails on the same license. For outbound traffic, you need to provide the IP addresses and networks that are allowed to relay mail through SpamTitan and a host name of the relay that you send your outbound mails through. This is used to deliver so-called bounce messages that were generated in response to your related send. These messages will not be marked as a virus. As you can see on this tab, there are available several other functionalities which you can configure, such as enabling smart host, simple authentication and security layer, or TLS encryption. Let me now describe briefly gray listing. This is an anti-spam technique which will initially not accept an email from a known source, but after some time it is eventually accepted. Under the auto whitelist client, you can configure a number of valid mail exchanges after which a client will be entered into the gray listing exemptions automatically. The mail exchange is defined by a so-called triplet. This is a client IP, sender and recipient. You can specify the length of time to wait until accepting the same triplet as a valid mail. As you can see, the default value is 300 seconds. And so let's move now to the content filtering tab. What SpamTitan does, it looks at each scanned mail for three particular angles: anti-spam, antivirus and content filtering. When virus filtering is enabled, all emails are scanned for unwanted content like viruses and trojans, etc. SpamTitan is shipped with two AV engines, Clem antivirus and Kaspersky antivirus. Both are included at no additional cost and can be set up to auto-update the virus definition database every hour. Kaspersky comes with additional heuristic code analyzing and cloud protection to provide a real-time antivirus protection. You don't need to configure any additional antivirus settings. Because spam emails are usually rather small, you can define to skip analysis for mails larger than some specific value. If you want to send non-delivery reports, you can turn on appropriate option. Here in this tab, you can also define the frequency of automatic updates of a list of custom spam rule sets. Moreover, SpamTitan can reject emails which contain certain types of files based on their extensions or their MIME types. If any mail part matches, the whole mail is rejected. You are provided with several different methods of identifying file attachments. Extension, file name filters based on information from message MIME header, file type filters detected by SpamTitan's scan algorithms, MIME type filter. In this tab, you can also specify what SpamTitan should do with password protected archives, which require a password in order to open and as such cannot be inspected for viruses. The options are to allow, block or ignore. If you want to filter mails containing some important data which can be presented as a particular pattern, you can use Content Filter tab and define a new filter. For example, you can block credit card numbers, social ID numbers, etc. How does it work? Each message header or message body line is compared against the content filter rules line by line. When a match is found, the corresponding action is executed, and the matching process is repeated for the next message header or message body line. You can specify precisely where SpamTitan should look for pattern at the beginning, at the end, in whole message, and you can define the pattern's value using regular expressions or just a phrase. Each filter can be applied to the inbound or outbound traffic. So far I've described some basic functionalities, but of course this is not everything what SpamTitan offers to protect your emails. Let's move on to Anti-Spam Engine tab, where you can find additional features. In the Settings tab, we've got 3 network tests used to determine spam score for a message. I've mentioned before about RBLs, but there are also Riser and Pizer. These are distributed collaborative checksum-based spam detection networks. SpamTitan supports also Base database, which helps to identify spam by looking short words or phrases that are commonly found in such messages. You can turn auto-learning on to feed automatically high-scoring mails into the Bayesian classifier. If you want to lower the spam score of received replies to a message previously sent by a local user, just turn on Pen Pulse. If you are getting hit hard by image-based spam, you can decide to enable OCR, but remember that it can be quite CPU intensive. In many cases, you may want to delegate some part of the work to other administrators, but maybe not want to give them to high permissions. You can do this via role-based administration functionality available in the SpamTitan. In the Anti-Spam Engine tab, Admins, you can define 3 types of accounts: administrators, domain group administrators, and domain administrators. For each of these accounts and one more additional regular user account, you can define separate roles and limit permissions to individual components of the SpamTitan. Just go to Anti-Spam Engine, Roles and Permissions tab, select appropriate account group and click Add. Then type a name of the role and select from Active Permissions tree all necessary elements of the web console the user should access. Note that a role which is owned by a domain group administrator or domain administrator cannot be seen, edited, or used by other domain group administrator or domain administrators. What is very useful, SpamTitan allows to define filtering policies by domain as well as individually for each user. When you add domain in System Setup Mail Relay Domains tab, a default policy is created. We can see such policy here for our domain bakotechlab.pl. Each of spam, virus and banned attachment checking may be enabled or disabled on a per domain or per user basis. You can modify later default values in policy, but remember that SpamTitan comes out of the box with a more than 99.9% spam catch rate. For example, you can change spam threshold, which is set by default to 5. This number can be increased or decreased depending on what settings you want. When a mail comes to SpamTitan, several tests score individually each message, and if finally the result is 5 or above, it will be marked as a spam. If you enable filtering and the result of mail scanning is positive, then you can choose from one of 3 actions: quarantine, pass with tagging, and rejecting. The first option is a recommended one. In that case, message will appear in the quarantine report and may be later released if it is deemed to be a false positive. You can enable a quarantine report here, and you can have a quarantine report in any of these languages specified below. You can select how often report will be generated and what it should contain. As you can see in the domain policy window, we are able to add also appropriate domain administrators and turn on archiving clean emails. The same functionalities can be defined for user policies in the anti-spam engine User Policies tab. Here you can test user permissions by impersonate action. This will automatically log you into user's interface with the same permissions as they would have. Now let's try this for test user. As you can see, for that user I have only limited access to the web console. I can change my password and quarantine report settings and define custom whitelist as well as blacklist for domains and email addresses. The last 2 things I'd like to show you today are quarantine and reporting tabs. Let me stop impersonating. In the quarantine, you can find messages that have been blocked as suspected spam or containing a virus. If you need to find some particular mail, you can use search filter panel. If you want to view a quarantine email, just click on them. The email content will open in separate window, as you can see. You can view message, view source, and if a message has been incorrectly specified as a spam, you can release it by clicking on the released link. This will automatically forward the message to recipient email account. Of course, you have also other options: whitelist, delete, and forward to admin. I show you now some example of the quarantine mail report. As you can see, user gets all important information about quarantine messages with links to available actions. In the quarantine settings, you can change the appearance and some parameters for the quarantine report. For example, the time of generation of the report, the logo, etc. Last but not least, Reporting tab, where there are available detailed information about status of the SpamTitan appliance. For instance, in System Information tab, you can check if hardware and software components is working properly. You can check status for processor, memory, uptime, load. You can check also the status of AV engines and other services. You can generate some graphical statistics. And very important tab, History. We need to wait a second to generate graphical statistics. And in the History tab, you can verify all mail transactions that have passed through SpamTitan. This is very important from the troubleshooting point of view. And of course, you can generate several types of report: on demand or defined as a scheduled reports. It was the last part of our today's presentation. I hope this has provided you with an insight into the rich functionality of the SpamTitan. To sum up, please remember that it's easy to set up and easy to use high-performance mail filtering security suite, which you can test for free downloading the demo image from SpamTitan's webpage. This session has been recorded. We'll upload the recording into our YouTube channel soon. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Anna, for the first part of presentation, and see you on our next Wednesday. Have a good day. Bye.